This is the Gender Center for Empowering Development. We are into women empowerment and governance and democracy, and then helping the marginalized groups to also attain certain level in our governance system. And today's meeting is all about women's participation and representation in the 2024 elections. So we at GenSed, we did a gender sensitive observation of the whole election, from the pre-stage to the campaigning stage to the election stage, and then even to the post-election. And then we were able to find certain things that we think the nation, other civil society people need to know, and all that. And per our observation, for GenSed, we deployed 230 people, observers across the nation. And over the years, we realized that most of the election observation that we do in Ghana are just the general one, without being specific with women. And we know the reason why we were doing gender sensitive observation is because we felt like women are marginalized. And women are marginalized, they are sidelined in so many things. So there was a need for us to do that gender specific observation. And with that, we were looking at accessibility issues, media representation of women. We were looking at violence against women, which was one of the major reasons we had this observation being done. And from the our findings, in fact, before the election, we observed the limited registered registration, voter registration, where we identify certain issues with regards to the system, even to the accessibility to the place, to the registration centers, the challenges that the gaps that we saw even in all those deliveries by the EC, and the political parties' influences on these exercises. We were able to identify all of them, and we proposed certain recommendations to the stakeholders, and then we were hoping that in the election we would not have so many issues with regards to some of the issues we observed in the limited voter registration. But then, looking at the election, we saw that some of these things were still happening. For example, when it comes to the polling station officials, we realized that the EC didn't make it like inclusive enough. We didn't have a lot of women being polling station officials. We didn't even have persons with disability. Not many of them were even part of the polling station officials. And we're asking, we all have the same equal rights, we all have the same abilities. Why is that some of these people have been sidelined? And then we observed we wanted to find out the violence nature, right, of the electoral system, and through the pre-election stage to the election day, and then the post-election. And we realized that a lot of women faced various forms of violence. They faced various forms of harassment and all that, with issues of misinformation, disinformation, threats, intimidation coming from all angles. And so these some of them, per our records, per our observation, we realized that about 1,275 issues of gender-based violence were found online. And then from our verification, we saw that 500, I'm sorry, I'm trying to recall the number, but quite a number of them were verified as true. And then which calls for an action where we have the implementation of policies regarding regarding the safety and the security of women in politics. And also, we also found out that some of the polling stations were not so accessible for women and persons with disability. And so we realized that some of the electoral materials, because the EC said that they are going to provide accessible materials for the women, and for persons with disability and all that. But we realized that one case was in Ayawaso West Wagon constituency, one of the polling stations where the polling station officials were more or less like keeping some of the accessible, the tactile ballots and all that, and the braille jackets, all of those things from from the persons with disabilities. So they weren't having access to those things because of some shortages and all that. And so that one was also another issue to tackle with. And then we also found out that even the media representation of women in the pre-election period, when it comes to women in politics, we realized that a lot of the media houses were not given room for women to be, be well represented. Of course, we saw just a few of the media houses giving women the opportunity to be able to share their policies with us and what they intend doing when voted for. But mostly, in fact, most of the media houses didn't give women so much representation in their services. And we realize that that one too is a gap, because if they are not able to be well represented, people will not even notice them to be able to vote for them. So that one too was another findings that we observed. Oh yes, sir. Sure, of course. We want to even congratulate the first vice president, female vice president of the country, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman. And it's a remarkable and historical achievement, I must say, because it has never happened. Even prior to her nomination being the running mate for the NDC, there were so many issues with regards to her. Will she be able to do it and all that? And then during the campaign period, in fact, she was seen. She was really seen throughout doing her campaigning, going into the grassroots areas to make sure that she is really active on the field. And then we are happy that with regards to her, she has been able to attain that level. And we are grateful that as a nation we have a woman in the higher office being able to help in the decision making of the country. And when it comes to the appointments, you see, during His Excellency John Dramani Mahama's campaign, he mentioned that he was going to make sure that he's implementing the affirmative action in all his governance. And so he was going to make sure that 30% of his governance are women being in governance. So he mentioned, because of what he has mentioned, now we are going by his word. And then we realized that for the ministerial appointments, even though the deputies and other staff haven't come yet, we have 42 ministerial positions appointment that has been done. And out of the 42, we have just 7 women. It's not even up to a 20% of the total number. And then we realized that at that side, being accountable to to your promises as to the 30%, is not being realized. Then again, we've seen that even other appointments, it is not really the 30%, but he's doing well, because one of the appointments at the presidential office, we've seen that we had a 50-50 representation with 5 men, 5 women, which is a good step. And so we are hoping that even as he has said that he's going to implement the affirmative action, he should really do it. And then he should make sure that he's incorporating that quota where 30% of the public services and all other areas, we have 30% of women being represented. So yes, we are not so we are happy about the appointments, but we hope that it will get better.
Laws. I believe that our electoral laws give too much discretionary powers to the Electoral Commission, and that must be re-looked at. Things must be stated explicitly in the law, so that the Electoral Commission will not use its discretion so that that particular decision by the Electoral Commission will not disenfranchise people, because it's against the law, and anything that is against the law must not be countenanced. This country is a country of a rule of law. So if all of us has embraced 1992 Constitution as one that will be guided, or that will guide our actions and our inactions, I believe that the law must state explicitly what we expect the Electoral Commission to do, so that nobody will be disenfranchised. So basically, if you ask, that's what I would say. The electoral laws must be relooked at to ensure that, as a beacon of hope to many African countries, we must ensure that we do things that will consolidate our democracy. We have always have a slim come out of what we call an electoral violence or an overthrow of our democracy, or our democracy being declined. For me, I believe that this particular election, it is some intervention that brought us this far. There are some few things that have ensured that this country's democracy is still intact. It is IPAC, okay, then the Peace Council and many other civil society organizations. Our activities has ensured that the country is what it is today. Another thing that I think that must be watched in terms of discretionary powers is inclusivity. Okay, inclusivity. A lot of the civil society organizations were declined accreditation to observe these elections. And I believe that nothing should restrain, okay, this public oversight in the elections. Because what that civil society do, they inform the people, they engage the people, they educate the people, they help to deepen our democracy. We, for instance, we join our hands together with 11 other civil society organizations. Even though we're not given accreditation, we observed the elections and we did something that was novel. We mount out up LED screens at some specific areas in the country, notably Circle, La Paz, Achimota, where we believe that they are densely populated, so that people will have real-time information on election results that were happening. So the results that we were receiving from our observers, we were bringing them, in fact, certified results, let me put it as such, because these are results that were declared by POs at polling centers. Then we pass them through an app that we created called the poll app. So this app, what it does is that it gives an avenue for you to enter the figure that was declared by the PO at the what do you call it, the polling centers. So when it comes in verified, and then we pass it through straight to the where we had our LED screens for people to have first-hand information, so that we can prevent or fight what we call disinformation and misinformation. And you realize that it aided for the peaceful nature of the elections, the peace that we are experiencing. That particular thing that we did helped for us to have peace in the country, because everybody believed in the figures that were coming. The outcome of the elections were not challenged, unlike our previous election, the outcome 2020 elections, where the Electoral Commission had to change the election results more than 3 times. This time around, we didn't get that because the vigilance was so massive. The support by civil society was there. You get that? And it gave people confidence and trust in the outcome of the elections. The Afro Barometer report from CDD told all of us that about 72 or 77% of the entire population does not have trust in the Electoral Commission and the process. What can we do to contribute to ensure that the outcome of the elections are, are, are received and embraced, are not challenged? And we believe that what we did contributed much to ensure that the outcome of the elections are received by the people. So I want to say that we will have to look at our laws again to ensure that all these things are addressed, so that the citizens will have confidence in our election, in our electoral processes, the electoral commission, the election itself, and then the outcome of the election. Okay, I would say so far so good. The president has promised that he is not finished yet. He's going to make more appointments, and he has again promised that he's going to ensure that he will implement the 30% quota that has been prescribed by the affirmative action law. So we are observing. We hope that the promise he's made, he's going to observe and he's going to implement. So now, per our calculation, um, we have achieved about 15% women appointments in President Mohammed's government so far in terms of appointments. So we are observing to ensure that the promise he's made to the people of this country, he will he will observe and then implement. People's platform and in their manifesto. It was what caused us to repose confidence in him and his party to vote for him. I believe that that must be upheld. Other than that, political parties will not be trusted by the people. The promises that were made is what caused us to vote for him and his party. So for me, if you ask, I think that he should strictly observe it and not come to apologize to us.